2 years ago, Americans watched in horror as a crisis unfolded at the Kabul airport.
She was tear-gassed and beaten.
Images of thousands desperate to escape Taliban oppression filled our news feeds. More than 80,000 Afghans made it to America. But the story didn't end there.
It was very cold. There was no power, no heat.
Who would help our newest neighbors? I'm Andrea Smartin. In Stranger Becomes Neighbor, you'll hear the stories of some remarkable refugees who left their homes and their dreams behind, only to start over from zero.
Their only possession was 3 blankets.
And you'll meet Americans who stepped up to help them.
You want me to come when you deliver your baby.
What can one person do in the face of an international disaster decades in the making? That's Stranger Becomes Neighbor. Find us at kslpodcast.com. Follow us on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen.
Hey, welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction, but more importantly, about recovery. My name is Casey Scott, and if you know somebody who needs some help, have them do what I did and give Pinnacle Recovery Center a call. They'll get you on your road to recovery. Dr. Matt.
How we doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
All right, 1983. What does that mean to you?
1983. Van Halen was writing the album 1984, I assume. I don't know.
Okay, no, that works for me.
I was 12. I was 12 years old. Yeah.
That's how many times I've blown into my car to get it started.
It is not, really?
Yes, it is. It counts it for you.
Wow.
And so,
that's only since September?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I do a lot of driving.
Yeah.
And so, but every time I look at that, I go, wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But it's a pretty cool program. I'm still in the 24/7. I was there on Thanksgiving, and it's part of the deal.
So I've had people ask me, like, does he have to go do that, like, every day?
Every
like,
day.
Even holidays, even Sundays?
I'll be there Christmas. I'll be there New Year's Eve, and it's in the morning between 6:30 and 8:30, and it's in the evening between 6:30 and 8:30. Right now, it's downtown Ogden, and so all the Christmas lights are up, and they got the Christmas
I love
Village.
Downtown Ogden.
Yeah, they got the Christmas Village
yeah.
going. So now when I walk in there, people go, "Hey, what are you doing?" I go, "I'm just here to see the lights."
Yeah.
But I'm really not. I'm there to blow.
I'm here to make it 1984.
Yeah, that's right. 1984. It'll be 1984 when we leave this podcast today.
Nice.
But sometimes if your breath is too cold and you're blowing into it,
Yeah.
it won't start. So you have to turn off the car and reset. And so, yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, you have to, like, huff into your hand to, like, get the heat going.
And I found because I have, a Diet Mountain Dew addiction right now, and I like the Pebble Ice.
The Pebble Ice.
And so I'll drink the Diet Mountain Dew, and then I'll eat the ice.
Chew the ice.
And so sometimes if my breath is too cold, it won't start. So then I have to put my tongue to the roof of my mouth.
What if you just had mouthwash or something? Would that
would set it off.
That would set it off?
If there was alcohol in it, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
You're not supposed to wash your hands with, what is that stuff?
Purell?
Yep. Or brush your teeth or do mouthwash before you
brush your teeth.
Not a half hour before.
I just liked how you said that as a general statement.
Well, no,
yeah.
no.
You can tell everybody in the program because the
we
breath
got
is
bad
horrible.
teeth, but we're all driving.
Yeah.
No, and so you're not supposed to do that half hour before.
I guess that makes sense. It's that sensitive, though. I'm a little surprised it's that sensitive.
And I just don't think they want to have any wiggle room. So they just go, hey, these are the rules.
Right.
Don't mess them up. Which is okay.
And they're liable if they're putting people through this program. It's a great program.
It's an amazing program.
Yeah.
And we're going to have them on after I graduate.
You couldn't be working for Pinnacle right now without, it would be really hard. You'd be spending all your money on Uber.
We'd have to have more guests from Ogden so I could hitch a ride down here.
I know. I noticed that the guests from Ogden dropped off a little bit after you got your...
they'll come back around. It's cyclical.
Cyclical, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, so we're getting ready to do a fabulous show, but I do want to say one thing real quick. I went to a concert the other night for X96. It was the Nightmare Before Xmas, and I went and saw the 1975s with my daughter. She's 15. She brought a friend. Her friend brought her dad. And so we both...
Broed out?
Yeah, we broed
buddy?
out. And so we went in there, and my daughter looked at her friend and said, Dad, we're out. And they wanted to get up close to the stage.
Yeah.
And so basically I saw the 1975s with my daughter's friend's dad.
Yeah, your new BFF.
Yeah, Dana.
You and Dana.
Yep, it was pretty cool, but it was amazing. But one thing,
wait a second, how tall is Dana?
He's way tall.
He's from Morgan. He's Dana Russell.
Is he?
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know, but he's way tall.
Is he like 6'5" tall?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Dana Russell from Morgan, Utah, I bet.
It might be.
He's a good man. You didn't piss him off, did you?
Is he an accountant?
He's a huge, yeah. And
Yeah!
he's huge.
Yes.
He was my neighbor growing up.
Really?
Yeah.
He saw the concert because he was 6'5". I saw the
Yeah.
back of someone's head
Yep.
because I'm 5'9". My
5'9".
license says 5'11".
Yeah, of course
it's
it
a
does.
running joke
So
at
does
my
mine.
house.
No, he's a good man. That's awesome. Yeah.
But the thing I did, I was talking to Randall Carlisle before I got in today, and he was wishing me a happy sober holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And I wished him sober holidays back, and I said,
Oh,
I
yeah. went
to a concert last night, and I found out concerts are a lot cheaper when you're not drinking. And I
if
remember
you're not buying drinks, yeah.
I remember the encore,
Yeah, and you remember the whole thing the next day.
and it was a lot of fun.
Good.
So those
Well,
are
that's
things
fun.
that are going on in my life. So I just wanted to share a little with you.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that, you're able to share these sorts of things so that people realize life can go on in a beautiful way when you become sober and stick with it. Think about that. That was a great evening. You're out with your daughter.
Yep.
I mean, getting a 15-year-old daughter to hang out with you is a miracle in and of itself.
And this is the daughter that, that we kind of had some rocky patches because of
Right.
my drinking. And
Sure.
so the fact that it was just me and her, we went there, we had great conversation on the drive down, we laughed. And I mean, really, my life is blessed in so many ways because of me being sober.
Yeah.
And I cherish all these moments now. And this will be something that we'll remember forever. It's like, hey, anytime she hears that band now, she's going to go, I remember when my dad took me to this concert.
Exactly,
He
yeah.
hung out with Dana.
Life gets better when you get sober and stay sober. Yeah.
Well, and I've
Good
always
for you.
said that. I got sober to live, not to hide.
Yeah.
And that's what this podcast is about, is to let you know that sobriety is possible. Recovery is possible. And it's with the help of sharing stories and letting other people know that there's other people going through the same trials and tribulations that you might be going. And this is how they did it. Now, your recovery might not look exactly like theirs, but hopefully you can get something from them and go maybe apply it to your own life.
Yeah, and if there's a parent out there listening right now struggling with their addiction and they think, I wish I could have sober nights like that to spend with my kids, it's possible.
Yeah.
Like you did.
And let's talk about it. And, I don't think I'm doing sobriety like a rock star because our guest today is doing sobriety like a rock star.
Neither one of us can dress like he dresses.
This is Patrick Williams. And I'll tell you what, I picked him up from the elevator, and I swear 3 different people commented on his outfit.
Yeah.
He's got some Nike high tops on with a little bit of pink in it, the pink that matches exactly to his hoodie.
Right.
He's got this great beard. He's got
The
blue
hat,
Oh,
the
look
Nike
at him.
hat.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I've never been that coordinated in my life.
Rock and sobriety.
Oh, thanks,
Right?
guys. I need to come hang out with you more often.
Patrick,
It's
how are you,
amazing.
man?
I'm fantastic.
So
it's great. Be here.
I do know Patrick from about 5 years ago.
Yeah?
He did an event called the Man Games.
Tell us about that. I don't know what that was.
Patrick, what was the Man Games?
The Man Games. So, those mud runs that people pay to like torture themselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like Mud Runner and like
Tough
Color
Mudder.
There's a
Run,
pig one.
Ragnar,
Dirty Dash.
Dirty Dash.
Yeah,
That's the
so
one. That's the one.
We had a couple guys come together and they had this crazy idea to do these like manly games where like you're on a horse throwing a spear.
Yes.
We had those
Hoverboards,
flyboards.
yeah.
Those flyboards.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Casey and I did a shot up at Deer Creek at like 6 a.m.
Of course.
And to the little promo shot for the
You
Man
rode
Games.
one of those?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a couple guys
break
on
your
there.
neck?
and-
No, they're awesome.
Oh, yeah.
pretty
They
cool.
look
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, that takes about 20 minutes to kind of get used to the whole situation, but
Yeah.
that's how we met.
So I worked with him 5 years ago, and then after I graduated from Pinnacle and started kind of the podcast and doing this, he reached out to me and said, hey, I've struggled with addiction and alcohol myself, and I think what you're doing is really cool. If you ever need me to come on the show and share my story, I'd be more than happy.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, definitely. We'll get you on. And so today is the day. So, Patrick, before we get to what you're doing now, how did it all start for you?
You know, it started late in my adulthood. I was raised LDS, and so I didn't really drink or use. I had a little bit of experimenting when I was in high school. You know, just like smoking marijuana with friends and stuff like that.
But typical high school
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. You know, I grew up on the East Bench. You know, I went to Brighton High School. So, you know, my parents were pretty involved. So, and I was a pretty good kid. You know, I served in leadership positions and, played sports. So I was pretty kind of in the scene there. So I had to put on a good show. But I remember the first time I had a beer, and I was 15 years old, and I was on a cruise, and my choreographer at the time was supposed to be chaperoning us, and she handed me...
Wait, your choreographer?
Yeah, well, I was
15, I didn't
I was
travel
in a singing...
with
I was
a choreographer,
so. So a lot of the swag comes from my youth. I was in a singing and performing group.
Oh.
It was called Singers Unlimited, and we used to do we used to go to Disneyland, and
okay.
we were performing on a cruise ship. Like we were the in-house entertainment.
Like Kids Incorporated?
Something like that, yeah. We did like popular songs, In Sync and all that jazz. So
was it like a boy band or was it girls?
No,
there
it was
too?
the girls and guys. It was
We
like
do
did
like
you ever go to Lagoon? Like the performances
popping
of
and
Lagoon,
locking and dancing.
Yeah,
and all that kind of
it was.
stuff.
I got made fun of quite a bit, but I got a
probably
lot
really
of girls.
fun, though, right?
Yeah, it was way fun.
He slips
Yeah.
that one in there.
Yeah,
We got a lot of girls. We got a lot of girls.
Look at those boy bands. Justin Timberlake.
They're doing just
Yeah,
fine.
they're
Yeah.
doing just. I'm not there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay, so you're on the cruise ship.
Yeah, so I got
as a performer.
as a performer, and my choreographer slipped me a Budweiser, and I was like, oh, I've always, I want to try this, and there was something about it. As soon as it hit my lips, I was like, whoa, and
The heavens opened up.
yeah, well, beer's not Budweiser's kind of gross, but when you first taste it, but the effect of it, it stuck with me for a really long time. So I didn't start drinking until I was about 28 or 29. I left the church at one point, and I was like, oh, let's go. Like all the floodgates are opened. I can finally, be free and do what I want to do. But it was not. It started out normal, going out with friends, and then, over the years progressed. I think probably about year 6 or 7 of my alcoholism, I started noticing that I was using it daily. I was waking up and taking a shot of whiskey. I got divorced, and that kind of led me down. I met a girl that drank, and I just tried to keep up with her. She was an alcoholic. Didn't know it. Maybe she did, but a lot of people that are alcoholics don't really know that they are.
Or they don't care.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't care. Yeah, and so... I was a single dad. I was raising my son with my ex-wife. Her and I have a very good co-parenting relationship, and it just kind of snowballed. I got a DUI, like Casey. I know about the interlock. I remember being so hungover trying to take my son to school that I had him blow into my interlock one morning to get him to school. And that, for me, was kind of one of the low moments of my parenting career.
I've got a few of those snapshots in my brain as well.
Yeah.
Where if I think about it, I go, who is this guy? I can't.
Yeah, and I suffered from depression. I had a suicide attempt after another failed relationship, which kind of spiraled down for me.
That was as a teenager. Did you struggle with depression back then?
No, I don't. I think I always felt like I didn't fit in. I always felt like I didn't have like a set group of friends. I kind of jumped around. I kind of fit in with everybody. I didn't. So I kind of always felt like I had to be funny and just crack jokes and be really sarcastic.
Do you feel like, and I'm going to use the mask situation, did you feel like you had to put on different masks with different groups of friends?
Yeah, I did, because I was so insecure deep down, because I honestly didn't know. I struggled with my identity, with my higher power. I didn't quite know where I fit in, and so I just kind of, alcohol, it was my solution. It made me feel better.
You're listening to Project Recovery. More with Patrick coming up.
A gun in the face.
Then all of a sudden they all kind of lined up. They pointed their guns at me. And this is the point where I thought, I'm going to die today.
Started 2 years of horror for an American in Venezuela.
They said, you need to give us your phone and get ready because you're coming with us.
I'm Becky Bruce, and I spent a year researching and piecing together Josh and Tammy Holt's story about their ordeal in a notorious prison.
That's when everything started to turn bad. We had another pound on the door. Boom, boom, boom. And there was the police once again.
You can binge all of the episodes of Hope and Darkness on kslpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
That first beer that you had, you said it did something for you, and knowing now that you were a kind of self-proclaimed insecure adolescent,
right?
What did that do for you? What changed when you drank and got the alcohol in
Yeah,
your system?
I'm a pretty confident guy, but it gave me like 20 times more confidence. Like I felt invincible at times. Like I had no. Once alcohol hit my system, I had no idea what was going to happen though. Like I literally, it could either be the best night of my life or it could be the absolute worst night of my life.
Could be a train wreck.
I could be blackout drunk, or I didn't black out much, but the later part of my alcoholism, the last several years of it, I noticed that I would wake up and not remember what happened.
Dr. Matt, let me ask you something before you jump into that, because he said something that struck me as odd. He goes, I'm a very confident man. I was a very confident man. But right before that, he said he was insecure and didn't know where he belonged. And that was similar to me. On the outside, I presented a very confident man, that I knew the answers, that I could get you to laugh, I could do this, and I was in control. But I now know that I wasn't. I had insecurities. I had things that didn't seem right with me. And the alcohol did the same thing for me. Is that pretty common?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I was going with that line was, that it's a common pattern that people harbor a lot of deep insecurities. Of course, that's normal to a large degree in adolescence, but it can be, something that's typical that an adolescent struggles with. A lot of teenagers have a bigger dose of it, and they feel really insecure, and really that's why you start to develop this false front of who you are. And so a lot of people who were very funny in high school could crack people up.
John Belushi, Chris Farley.
Yeah, a lot of those are people who are developing that part of their personality to get by and have connections with other people and sort of mask or cover up their other insecurities. I would say another thing to keep in mind is we always talk about this kind of stuff as all or nothing, black and white, and it's not. We have multiple areas of who we are, and some we have more confidence in those areas, and some areas we have less confidence. And so when you're a teenager, if one of the areas you're struggling in might be social, which is very important when you're a teenager.
Talking to girls.
Yeah, talking to girls, all that kind of stuff. You just would jump on anything that helps overcome that. And for a lot of people, if their DOC is alcohol and you're a teenager, or weed, those are two common adolescent drugs, those kind of mellow a person out real quick. And like you said, you all of a sudden feel like, oh, with that insecurity gone, I could do anything. I could be anybody. I could talk to any girl, or I could do, anything, go up on stage, whatever the case may be. And so I think that a lot of people's alcoholism or other substance abuse problems start kind of small in adolescence as little self-medicating, emotion medicating experiences, and it may not be till they're older where it becomes full-blown. Right. A lot of kids who used it in high school didn't necessarily party, they weren't big partiers, but they just found that, and like you said, you never forgot it. Never. It kind of flipped a switch in their mind, and you want to come back to it when you're older, because as you get older, there are more reasons to worry and struggle, I think.
There's been many guests on this podcast who have got into their addiction because of some sort of trauma. But I'm listening to Patrick, and he said there was no real trauma, that he said. He said it started out pretty normal. Well, do you see it the same way?
That his started off normal?
Or would you say that, some of those insecurities, starting from an early age?
Well, we'd have to hear a little bit more about that time, but it sounds like there wasn't a specific incident. Some people start off life just really behind the eight ball, and they have a lot of knocks against them. You're getting the ladies. You're traveling on the cruise ships.
Got a choreographer.
I don't even think I knew what that was when I was 15.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got rhythm. I still have no rhythm.
Yeah.
So he's got some stuff going for him. But it's funny that we overvalue those external abilities. Like, I talk to kids all the time, teenagers a lot, who might be an athlete, and athletes are highly valued in our society, or they might be a musician, or they might have some of these outward skills that everybody flocks to. But underneath, there's a lot of insecurity, a lot of fear, some depression, and that's very, very real, but we try to hide it and cover it up. Or
downplay it.
Right. And unfortunately, we sometimes learn to self-medicate it.
Which is what I did. Yeah. So I grew up a pretty normal Mormon household. My parents, I wouldn't say were, the staunch, conservative Mormon family. I had a little brother who suffered with addiction. He was a opioid abuser while he was younger, and I saw my parents struggle through that whole situation. That he went to several treatment programs, and he recovered, and I think he's in active recovery right now. But there was always some deep-seated resentment there that I held towards my parents. I noticed how much attention they gave him.
So how old was he when he was struggling with those things, and how old were you?
He was probably 14, 15.
So he got into that.
So I was probably 18, 19. I went on a Mormon mission right out of high school when I turned 19. And during that entire time when I was gone, I was kind of removed from it. When I got home, and
still all about his treatment.
Yeah, he was in and out of treatment centers. My parents, spent thousands of dollars, which I don't. I'm a parent now, so I guess I can understand the deep seated love and help. But at some point, there is some enabling that goes on there.
I think that's an interesting family dynamic that you're bringing up, and I think it happens quite a bit where one person in the family is really struggling with an addiction, and all the energy and all the resources go to that one person, and we could argue that, of course, they need that sort of help and support, right? But it can be to the detriment at times of other members of the family. Right. So I've had some people tell me, in our sessions, they're like, what do I have to do? Like run somebody over or get drunk myself in order to get some support?
Right. Yeah, there was a lot of that. And it came from me. It came from my family. Not, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was the culture we grew up in. But there wasn't a lot of affection there. There wasn't. My family's not the hey, bro, I love you. Give me a hug. We just weren't like that. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about things. I've been in active therapy my entire adult life. My son, who's 11, we go to therapy together. I didn't learn these basic communication skills and problem solving skills as a young adult or even as a child. I think I could have set myself up, for more success. And what's made my recovery a little bit more, easier to navigate is the fact that I have been, in therapy, working with a professional therapist, for 10 plus years. But that alone is not gonna keep you sober.
Right.
At least it hasn't for me.
What role do you think it plays? I agree. I don't think it's the sole answer, but in what way does it help?
Well, it helps understanding the thoughts and the deep seated resentments that cause you to drink. What are the reasons that you want to pick up and use? For me, it was relationships. That was huge for me. Just how I couldn't, keep a relationship together. On the outside, I project this very confident, good-looking guy, and then it's very right. And then
that's exactly what I was thinking right now. He was a good.
I was lost in his eyes.
I was lost in his beard.
That's next guy. Gosh, I like this podcast.
So let's get back to your relationship.
I want to see how that ties back. So in therapy, you do often. We have primary relationships with our parents and our family of origin, and that kind of sets a sort of standard within us for what a relationship feels like. What does it mean to be close? Like you said, your parents didn't really do a lot of that affectionate stuff, and sometimes that, even though there's something more or different out there, that kind of feels normal to you, and then you leave your family of origin, and you try to connect with other people on an intimate level, whether it's close friends or romantic relationships, and it's hard sometimes to sync up. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah,
as far as trying to understand that.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of girlfriends growing up. I was raised LDS, and so
can't date till you're 16.
Yeah, can't date. Well, that wasn't a big thing.
Unless you're on a cruise ship drinking bud.
Yeah, right. So I never really, like I said, I never really connected with men or women. Mm-hmm. So I kind of was like, okay, when is this going to happen for me? I always was very confident around women, but when I got married...
What do you mean by that? Because I think Casey was picking up on it. It almost feels like you're kind of talking out both sides of your mouth, and I think I know what you mean, but I want you to explain, like, how is it that you never felt close to a girl, but you felt confident around them?
Well, I could get girls. I could attract girls into my experience easily, but having a close, intimate, personal relationship, like a committed relationship, was very hard for me to do.
Sharing and talking and connecting on that
level. That intimate level, that personal level, because I was ashamed of who I was. I didn't know who I was. I lived this sort of romanticized, life of like, I would tell you things, that this grandiose idea that wasn't true at all, and so part of the reason that I drank was because I was so sick and tired of being that person, of making up these stories of who I was, or couldn't achieve those things.
So Casey, there's a term I like for that, what you're talking about. We call it a facade of competency.
Right.
So inside, facade is the front of the building. On the inside, you feel insecure, vulnerable, lost, scared, not really sure who you are. But on the outside, you might build this facade that's the opposite of confidence and ability. And sometimes through adolescence and young adult life, unless we have an experience that requires us to go inside the building, we just keep building up this facade.
Right.
And eventually it can kind of come crashing down. Yeah. And we self-medicate what's on the inside at the, as we build the outside, and eventually they can't coexist.
Right.
I mean, you're saying all the right things to me. I see a lot of myself in that scenario right there.
Do you?
I want to get back to Patrick and his relationship. So you go on a mission, you come back, you get married, you get divorced around 29, you said?
Right. Yep. Got married at 25. We had a kid. Got divorced about 29.
What was the reason for the divorce, if you made me ask? And was it alcohol?
No, I didn't drink during that time. We just weren't a vibrational match. Like, I'm a big believer on, I really don't care why relationships end. They just do sometimes. They
run their course.
Yeah, there was some things going on between both of us that wasn't sustainable. Like I said, we're great friends and co-parents. We didn't have that romanticism that you needed to sustain a relationship, that sexual intimacy that I think is so crucial.
The fire that everybody talks about.
Yeah, we were like buddies, she was awesome. We played soccer together. She's a fantastic mother. But yeah, that never really clicked for us. And that's, I got divorced around 29.
And that's when you started drinking.
Yeah, that's when I started drinking. I left the church officially, had my records removed, and I was all in. Like, I was going out to bars every night. I was,
And if there's anybody listening who doesn't understand that, what that means is if you're trying to live a committed Mormon or LDS lifestyle, one of those things that they is a central tenet is no drugs or alcohol.
Right.
Coffee, tea, tobacco. There's a very strict word of wisdom policy, and that wisdom is about your health.
Correct.
And so when a person leaves the church and they feel like, I can now experiment with the things that I see everybody else doing, drinking, smoking, whatever. There's actually a lot of research on that when people first leave the LDS church, they are at higher risk for binge drinking and a lot of alcohol-related problems for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.